Hello and welcome to M.Clifford's Wits End Productions. My name is Mark Clifford and happy Thanksgiving. What a wonderful day to launch my channel, Thanksgiving. I hope that you are having a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family or celebrating however it is that you may choose to do that. Welcome again to the channel. I hope that you'll enjoy this video. I hope that you will smash the like button, share, and subscribe as well. This is the first of a four-part series of videos on how I became homeless. So this introductory video is part one, the early years. So this is kind of about the mindset or the things that led up to homelessness actually being a full-on thing. We'll address this in just a moment. But no one wakes up in the morning and says, gee, I really want to be homeless and impoverished today. No one has ever done that. Homelessness, while it can be an abrupt thing in some cases, or an all of a sudden, more often than not is something that escalates and happens over time. And so, a lot of what goes into being homeless is very psychological. There are some people who have been homeless for so long that they just accept being homeless. There are some people that, for whatever reason, they're accustomed to the lifestyle and getting housing or being responsible for the things that go along with housing is very scary for them. And so homelessness, when it occurs, there's one of two things. Either people will reject it and go, I've got to get out of this situation, or they will accept it and just go, okay, I'm here, this is my lot in life, and this is where we're going to go. And it spirals out of control really quickly. I imagine with the housing moratorium being lifted that there are a whole bunch of people who have never experienced shelter life or living in a mission that will be coming into this situation and will be rejecting it vehemently. So hopefully this video can be a help to you. If you're someone who is looking to get into housing or looking to get out of homelessness, hopefully there will be things you find in this video series that are also for you. I hope my channel will be an aid to helping people get out of homelessness and get into a more solvent situation in life. So, as I said, this is the first four videos on the how, where, when, why of becoming homeless, or my becoming homeless. So let's dive right in. Back in the mid-90s, 94, 95, I was in a band and we had a storage unit and we all paid on the storage unit. So each of us would take turns if it was a really late rehearsal night or if people had been partying really hard, whatnot. We would take turns, just staying at the unit overnight and then going to work the next day or whatnot. So for me, there was a point for about a week and a half, maybe two, where I stayed there off and on. I asked the other guys in the band, hey, do you guys mind if I do this while I'm waiting to get my apartment? And they were like, sure, no problem. And I was 24, 25, so I was in my mid-20s, and still had that 20s line of thinking why pay for a home when you can have the home away from home? And it started to, I guess it planted that seed of thinking of like, well, you don't really need a house if you can get away with just staying in a storage unit. So that was kind of the initial thought that had started way back then, way back in the 90s. And so after the band situation, I had done some camping out. I'd lived in a couple of trailers that were fairly marginal as far as, like, they were habitable but barely habitable. I also had done some tenting. I had lived in a couple of different tent situations, and so yeah, I did a bit of the camping out thing, and I will tell you that camping out works to a point. The point where it doesn't work is when you're in the Pacific Northwest and late fall sets in and winter, and it's windy, it's rainy, it's cold, it gets frost on the ground, might even snow a little bit. That is when it gets not fun whatsoever. You go to get water and the water's frozen, things like that. That kind of, if you're a person who enjoys living in the outdoors and you've just got to be there, it's great. If you're a person who enjoys doing it seasonally, fall and winter are not really the time of year you want to be doing that. I'm the latter. I do not like cold. I do not like being frozen out of my trailer or my tent. Does not work for me. And in one of the housing situations I was in with the trailer, there was a rodent infestation. And that only worked to a point. Once fall started to set in, I was out of there with a quickness because the rodents became even more so as they were seeking shelter from the weather and whatnot. So um, there's more to be said on this, but we'll save that for a later video. On my way to the tenting and whatnot, kind of in that mix, there was a house that I stayed in, and this is in 2001. A friend of mine, John, had a large 13-bedroom house, and people would come from all over the U.S., all over the world, and would stay at John's house for really nominal rent, or even if some didn't even pay rent at all. Some would work off their rent working at the house. It really varied what people worked out with John. But having said that, I landed myself a bed in the basement of John's house. And he called it the House of David. I called it the Land of Craziness. It really was a wild ride, and it was what I will consider one of the transitional housing situations I was in, because when I was living there, I was waiting to get into an apartment situation, and boy, a lot of, again, the mental aspect of all this. It is a real case study on how weird can get when waiting for one's own living space. So then we'll jump forward a little bit to when I was 41. So I had gotten into a 90-something Dodge Caravan. I took the back seats out and I put a air mattress in the back, and I made it my modular home, my mobile home, which living in my van had its ups and downs, had its pluses, had its minuses. I did that for quite a while, actually. I lived in the van until the van died on me. I was at work one day, and the engine seized, and so a coworker let me borrow her deceased father's truck. She had the truck, but she didn't really drive it, and she allowed me to borrow it. So since I had been living in the van, I switched from living in the van to living in the truck. Things kind of came to a falling out with this person. So I needed to give the truck back. I was basically being evicted from the borrowed truck. I had a dead van that needed to be moved from a parking lot to who knows where. I did not know where I was going to move this to. So I had a friend that I had known for several months who worked with the Bellingham Homeless Coalition. And she made a way for me to get into a transitional house called the Smith Road House. So I was able to get myself and the van to the Smith Road House. The Smith Road House was a stressful situation in that it was really geared for people coming off drugs and or people that were coming out of jail or prison. And I had no experience with either one. Well, drugs, as far as other people doing drugs when I was doing band work. But on a personal level, no, I never had a struggle with drugs. And the prison thing, I really did not know what the whole prison idea was about. But I found out, and I made some friends there and made it through that time. But we can, again, we'll cover this more in detail in the video series. But yeah, as of about August of 2012, I reconnected with an old friend in South Seattle, in the Auburn area, and in hopes that things would get better, I moved. There's only one problem with this sort of thing, especially going back to that concept of things being psychological. The one problem here was the one thing that went with me everywhere I went was me. So as long as I had that idea of being marginal or paying as little as I could and living on a kind of the edge of a survival mode, I was stuck in that. So things went okay. I made my way to South Seattle, and that is where we are going to pick up in the next video. So I hope that you do come back for part 2. I hope that you join me again on the homeless journey, and as we look at this, the next video we're going to talk about South Seattle, more about Bellingham, and the East Side. So that's all for today. I hope you found this video to be helpful, insightful, or entertaining. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe, and thank you very much. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving and a wonderful day.